Okay, some people are ticked off at me because of something that I said about my grandsons in the last video. And I use some of my own personal stories to prove my points, really. And anything that I say about my family and my grandsons and or my daughter or my wife or whatever is, my perspective. Now, let me just say this. So, at one point in my life, I looked around and I noticed that the world wasn't that great. I did the same thing you probably did. Cried out for Jesus because that's the only name I knew. And before I knew it, there was a tempest that blew over my house. Didn't seem to affect anybody else's house in the neighborhood but mine. I woke up from a perfectly good sleep, shivering in fear. And at the time, my wife and I got along beautifully, even though we had already been having issues with our daughter for quite a while. But they hadn't quite got out of control yet. It was a cause of concern. We did a lot of spoiling and a lot of helping that, we just don't have the means to do anymore because of this great, wonderful world that we woke up one day and said, oh my God, this is a nightmare that's not going to go away. And that's the way I feel about it. I can tell you right now, because I talk to my wife pretty much every day, one way or another, either by phone or by texting. And I can tell you that she feels the same way. Maybe even sometimes worse than me. I do a lot to help my family. My family does a lot to help my wife and my grandsons and my daughter. My daughter literally has nowhere else to turn. If she isn't helped by the people that love her, I don't even want to think about what's going to happen. But with regard to my grandsons, I want to just make this clear. Here's the thing. I don't go around terrorizing people. It's not what I do. In my forehead and in my right hand, in other words, the mark that I was given by my God, creator of all beginning, if you will, specifically the light. Okay? I get help, and I do have compassion for people. I'm not going to tell you all the things that I do because I don't have to, and besides, that's between me and my creator, okay? And that's the way it's going to stay. But I will tell you this. I look at my grandkids. Now, two of them appear to be almost normal. Almost. They appeared that with the right kind of loving, which my wife is trying to give them, and possibly with quite a bit of health being instituted in their life. I'm talking about the things they eat, and I'm talking about knocking back their worms and bugs and parasites to a point where possibly they would be better. Possibly. It's not easy trying to convince people that have cancer, which is my wife, had it, went away. It's almost a guarantee it's going to come back. We know this from our education, thanks to TikTok. But she refuses, even though she's very much educated in her herbal book. She has all the right books. She's going to do what her doctor says. Well, you and I know that if you do that, there isn't anything good that's going to come of it. If you get a biopsy in your breast, you're going to get cancer just from a biopsy. Okay? I don't care if you believe me or not. If you don't know what I'm telling you, look it up. It's true. So I sent her this week some cat's claw and some selenium. And I sent her a nice package of organic moringa trees. And because I love dates, I ate them and sort of washed them. And there was a kind lady that taught me how to stick them in a plastic bag and leave them in my car for 2 months and go back and look at them. And all of a sudden they're sprouting. These are trees that'll bear fruit in 5 years to 6 years. I'm talking about medjool dates. You just water on a paper towel, fold them up in the paper towel, stick it in a plastic bag, and leave it in your car. And now there's out of, I don't know, maybe 20, 13 of them sprouted. I'm getting ready to plant them. Found out that where my wife lives, they'll be sustained. But you got to have a male and a female, so you got to plant enough of them that there's a male and a female. Anyway, my goal is to try to help my family despite their disbelief in anything but allopathic medicine, or their belief in allopathic medicine. Despite that, sometimes the wrong word comes out and I don't know it. Like when we were talking in the last video about Rh negatives and Rh positives. I said Rh negatives twice. But that's what my video today is going to be about. But I just want you to understand that every time I call, every single time I call, there's quiet. And then once the four of them realize that they're talking, that she's talking to me, they start screeching and yelling at the top of their lungs. I sent them, because they broke her phone, I sent them an iPad. Not a new one, but one that would be okay for kids to use, that, you know, she might not have to lend out her phone anymore since she had to get a new one. Just trying to help. I do a lot. But, it wouldn't matter what I do. It's not enough. Thankfully, I've got a brother that, believes my wife is like a sister to him. And I told him, I said, well, your niece is more of a sister to you than any other person in our family. She's an A negative just like you. So, I just try to get people to understand that, okay, it looks terrible when you look at the news. It looks terrible when you look on YouTube and I mean, just the people that are trying to make you feel bad all the time, acting like they're your friends. You don't need anybody else that's trying to hurt you and scare you, trying to be your friend. I'd like to be friends of those who take my advice. Stop eating animals. Because when this boils down and you get to the end of it, doesn't matter who is behind it. I'm telling you, this is what all of this is about. This is where you're going to lose everything or gain everything. I'm telling you, you need to hear me out. I know what I'm talking about. I prove it every time I come on one of these videos in some fashion. I prove it. Sometimes I get lucky and my explanation is so good, it's hard to deny. And that's why so many of you same people keep coming back. But do you think YouTube is doing anything to help me? See, everybody's forgot about Obama. But they won't even post my videos in a timely manner anymore. Because they don't like the things that I say. They don't like the things I say about the Anunnaki. They don't like the things that I say about the spirits. They don't like the things that I say about the RH positives. Okay, all of it is connected. That's because that's what they're connected to. Do you understand? Somebody said the other day that, maybe today, I don't know, that RH negatives pick on them. Everybody has bugs, okay? Somebody like me probably, even though well, again, this is my business. I fasted for long periods of time, more than once, okay? I know I still have parasites and probably won't get rid of them until I fast enough that they just decide to go. Well, that day's coming, I'm fairly certain. I have a box of food over here, but I'm not looking to try to save my butt with food, or I would have a whole closet. It's one box. Big deal. I'm not trying to save my dirty ass, okay? What I am trying to do is get to the truth, because that is what is ultimately going to set you free. You need to know the truth about the things that I cover. And the problem is that it's so hard to find that even if you find it, you're not sure if it's the truth or a lie. And that's because every single book you will ever read, if it's published, it's got truth and lies in it. And they keep it that way on purpose. So don't talk to me about how great angels are. Don't talk to me about how great spirits are. Don't talk to me about these people laying up riches left and right that are only concerned about their inheritances. Don't talk to me about how great they are. Most of the time, when I'm talking to white people, you think that you are the people of the Bible. There's no white people in the Bible, people. You're not the chosen. Which explains why you don't seem to know right from wrong. I mean, it's explained in the book of Enoch. Just going to clean my glasses. That, or rather, Clementine explains it beautifully. You appear to be doing what you do out of necessity, but that's not it. Just like my grandsons, who the main one, the oldest one, who has killed animals, who beats on his brothers unmercifully, even in their sleep. That's why they had to have 4 bunk beds so that they could be separated. Do you understand? Anyway, and it's not going to get better. The oldest one's 5, because they don't come out of this, whatever it is you want to call it. So many of you say, well, they're just boys. No, my boy wasn't like that. Nor were my brothers. I have one brother that didn't have no problem killing animals. But generally, he's the sweetest RH positive that I know. What's his problem then? Well, he won't stop eating pork. He's probably got at least a dozen tapeworms in him 30 feet long. Hey, you don't have to believe me. You go online and you look at animals walking around with 30-foot tapeworms hanging out of their bums, okay? And then you come back to me. Okay, it aggravates me when someone doesn't appreciate what I do, but I can see why somebody would be upset with me about what I said about my grandsons. It's just that I know that they will fight girls, and I don't approve of that. All right, I don't care if you are married or if your girlfriend is Ellie Mae Clampett. I don't care. It's no good that ever comes out of it. Anyway, so I'm gonna cover some things on my video today. I'm going to get as far as I can get. I hope I can get pretty far. The life essence of Ti-Amat she extracted. This is a nigger sign. Now this is the Ti-Amat that is a proper name. So it's a literal proper name. See, this tells me right here, that postmaster that's talking about hyphenated names, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but that's telling me right there that Zachariah Sitchin knew that this was a proper name. Now, keep in mind, Ti-Amat is a dragon, okay? That's going to be a spirit. It's going to be a spirit woman. It's going to be the mother of all. Anyway, not necessarily the mother of all. See, That's the Anunnaki, blonde hair, blue-eyed gal. But whenever we start mixing, well, Inky's Stinky Winky and his two gals, Dusk and Dawn, who are the mothers of supposedly Adam and Eve. Inky is the father of them. If you believe that story, then that is once again Ti-Amat. You understand? The mother of all. She extracted bit by bit in the vessels she inserted in the vessels of clay in the Absu made Nima, the admixture form. Incantations, this is witchery, witchcraft. It's not for human use, but the Anunnaki did it. And again, Anunnaki are angels, therefore they are spirits. They're spirit-based. They're not soul-based. So where did all these souls come from? Think about it. Angels don't have souls. They are spirits. Do you understand? Archons. So where did the soul people come from? They blended with the soul people. Primitive workers were the first to be created. This is what we're talking about here. And the soul people are the hominids. Homo habilis. And then once the mixing, sorcery, mixing, because that's what they do, witchcraft. Now you've got a mixture, and each time someone is born, they have both male and female. One is turned on, one is turned off. And then from there, it's just according to whether or not you have a soul or a spirit. Yes, yes, that's it. That's what it comes down to. So, in the vessels of clay in the Abzu, Nima, the admixture, formed incantations as the procedure befits. She was uttering. So she has to speak it into existence. Do you understand? Witchcraft. That's what they mean. When they say their God spoke it into existence. That's what they mean. Incantations. Magic. Okay. As the procedure befits, she was uttering. So she's uttering incantations, probably very much like the pagans pray, repetitiously, right? Think about it. In the wombs of the birth-giving heroines, the fertilized ovals were inserted. There was conception at the allotted time. Birth-giving were occurring at the allotted time. 7 female earthlings were born. Now, this isn't natural birth. This is insemination birth. These women are not having sex with chimpanzees, okay? These Anunnaki. The reason that they look like they look is because they were fashioned. You want to know what they were before that? You can go see that in season 2 of the Outer Limits. I'm talking about in the 90s, late 90s, season 2, about the middle. I think it's called The Anniversary. You want to see that? Go see that and you'll understand. You'll figure it out. Anyway, life essence of Adamu, she extracted bit by bit the vessel she inserted. Then in the male part of Adamu, an incision she made, a drop of blood to let out. Let this a sign of life be that flesh and soul have combined. Let it be forever proclaimed. Now, flesh and soul. What about the spirit? See, they want you to think that these Anunnaki are giving birth to soul women. Women of this realm. The earth, made from the clay. This is a sign. She squeezed the male part of blood, one drop of the blood in each vessel to the admixture she added. In this clay mixture, earthling with the Anunnaki shall be bound. But no mention of spirit, just soul and flesh. You see, they don't want you to know. Thus was Nema saying an incantation she was pronouncing. Are you starting to get this? This is magic. To a unity shall the two essence, one of heaven, one of earth, together be brought. That which is of earth, that which is of Nibiru. By blood kinship shall be bonded. So was Nema pronouncing her words. Ningashita also recorded. Now understand, all this is illegal. Better yet, let's call it unlawful, because legal is statutory law, but it's unlawful. It doesn't fly. No matter how much they try to hold it over our heads, it doesn't fly. However, if you are a moon star, go look it up in Black's Law Dictionary. We'll cover it, so don't worry. So I want to cover Ningharsag out of one of the books that I read. It was a book about the Anunnaki. It says, Lady, mistress of the mountain peak, a daughter of Anu. She came to earth as chief medical officer and helped Enki in the genetic engineering of the primitive worker. That's what's unlawful. You can't come in here and capture a soul. Can't do that. No, can't do that. Gaining the epithets, Ninti, lady who gives life, and Mami, M-A-M-M-I, mother goddess. As half-sister of Enki and Enlil, she was desired by both, ended up marrying nobody, but had a love child, Ninurta, with Enlil. What they don't tell you here is that she had some daughters with Enki. See, that's why he didn't think he could go above Enlil, because he didn't have any males. By unraveling the complex succession of rules of the Anunnaki, ZS, has shown how Ningharsag found herself at the center of the rivalries that led to the Pyramid Wars and the peacekeeping efforts to end them. Respected by both clans, she was granted dominion over the fourth region, the Sinai Peninsula. Her rank 15, her constellation, which we call Virgo, the Maiden. By the way, in the very book, the Lost Book of Enki, it says she gave that to Inanna. But somehow Ereshkigal, Inanna's older sister, appears to have wrestled it away from Inanna. Now we're going to find out about Inanna, but you got to understand that in her temples, they were all woke. And you need to understand that. She had male and female priestesses, priests, and it was a sex cult. And they were doing sex in the sacred precincts. Anyway, let's continue. It says, and her planet, Venus, so they're saying that the planet is all hers. Now understand, when these angels are standing out on the beach in City of Angels with Nicolas Cage, they're not there looking at the sun. They're there looking at Venus. Do you understand? The light bringer, Lucifer. Do you get it? If she is not a goddess of the earth, she has Venus status. Where in time taken over by the ambitious Inanna Ishtar. That's what I was telling you. Though it appears that Ereshkigal, her sister, who literally is responsible for her death, now she did arise, but it's not the same. Her consciousness did arise. The Egyptians too considered Negersag mistress of the Sinai, name her Hathor, 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 who gave abode to Horus, but in her old age they nicknamed her the cow. No doubt, you know, because Anu liked to fancy himself as a cow, as a bull, as did his son Enlil. Did paganism turn into Christianity? The transition from paganism to Christianity took place very gradually and unevenly in late antiquity and in the early Byzantine world. Basically, all the religions are to hide their pagan origins. There are going to be some controlling scriptures in there that people will absolutely believe because they don't know any better. And then there's going to be, you know, things that are in there that are not good for them. For example, worshiping angels as opposed to the creator of all beginning. That's a big no-no. And even if it wasn't, common sense would tell you that's wrong. Getting favors from spirits is going to cost you. This is why we had so many abductions. Because a lot of times people made agreements out of Bashar's own mouth that they didn't know that they were making with these bastards. Because you never read the fine print, people. You never read the fine print. You never ask for it. You never read it. Where in the Bible is witchcraft mentioned? So Deuteronomy 18:10 through 11, let no one be found among you who consigns a son or daughter to the fire, or who is an augur, a soothsayer, a diviner, a sorcerer, one who casts spells, or one who consults ghosts of familiar spirits, or one who inquires of the dead. See, this deal right here consigns a son or a daughter to the fire. Let me tell you how that works. They have to give service in the military or whatever, okay? Governmental service. Or they have to go into the fire. See how it works? And many of these children, by the Phoenicians, which are today the Irish, were basically eating their children. They were putting them in ovens, Nimrod's ovens, and they were eating them. Make no mistake about it, this is what they did. We learned this in a previous video covering the Urantia book. What do Wiccans believe? Most Wiccans believe in a horned male god and moon goddess. That horned male god is, that's either a ox or it's a ram, and either way, it's Marduk or it's Enlil. Ultimately, that's what it's going to be in this realm. Anu isn't here. He's not here yet. He may be on the way. We may have to deal with him too. But many of these worded books that we think are the creator of all beginning, that's just Anu talking. We'll cherry pick what we need, people. The only Wiccans who do not believe in both the goddess and the god are those who belong to the Dianic Wicca. Okay, remember I told you, Inanna had a problem with woke. And therefore, her other name was Diana. Or let's just say one of her other names. Sometimes they would take on each other one's personalities that suited them for whatever they were trying to do. They believe in the existence of only the goddess. You see, that would be a moon goddess that believes that. Some Wiccans, in other words, RH positive. Some Wiccans believe that the god and the goddess are equal. That's not how the Anunnaki set it up. But you got to remember, they loved their daughters. So they gave them ridiculous power. Who is the evil woman in Revelation? We'll talk about why they got all this power before it's over. It isn't all that different from what we're having to deal with today in our newfangled woke society that we have to be bombarded with every single day, every single minute. And it's politically correct now. Is it politically correct? I have a family member that has been gay and for years, and has lost all of his friends to AIDS, but managed to stay alive. But he doesn't go around flaunting what he does, and he's not perverted and trying to ruin children. Bring children into the fold. Though he was, as a child, by a principal of a private school. I have many stories, but I'm not going to go there. Who is the evil woman in Revelation? It says, Revelation 2:18 through 29 reveals that what Jesus instructed John to write to the church of Thyatira, although the church exhibited commendable virtues, it allowed an evil woman, here referred to as Jezebel, to lead its members into immorality and idolatry. Jesus predicted strict punishment for her and for her followers. Well, it's not, if you want to worship the creator of all beginning, you have to imagine and put yourself on a plane where he would be. He would be doing none of these little g activities. None of it. Then that's because these that call themselves Anunnaki are literal archons. They're from the bottom, people. That's it. That's all. They're bottom feeders. posing, masquerading as an authoritarian figure when they can't even wipe their own butts. It was no time at all before they were here killing and eating animals, and then they couldn't keep their hands off of the Earth Girls. They have none restraint whatsoever. They do as they wilt. Do you understand? I'm trying to help you. Some of you RH positives are not happy to hear this, and I understand why. But you can clean your dirty butt up by eating the right foods to start with and learning how to fast, which none of you are fasting. Not enough. What was the first witchcraft act in 1542? Oh, geez. We just saw one of the first acts. Right? What was it? Nimma's incantations. Right? Witchcraft Act, which defined witchcraft as a crime punishable by death. It was repealed 5 years later, but restored by a new act in 1562. A further law was passed in 1604 during the reign of King James I, who took a keen interest in demonology and even published a book on it. So it's like the pot calling the kettle black, people. That's all. Just the pot calling the kettle black. It says, where in the Bible does it say, suffer no witch to live? King James Version, Exodus 22:18, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. It has been used by some contemporary, ordinary, Akan Christians in Ghana to justify praying for the death and destructions of witches and wizards. Who is the first witch of the Bible? The witch of Endor. Remember? Saul had to talk to, because he couldn't wait for Samuel. According to the book of Samuel in the Old Testament, the witch of Endor possessed an unusual power. She owned a talisman with which she could summon the dead. Now, those are familiar spirits is all. But are some of them, what are they called, familiar? Because they're family members. You're always talking about the family, the Illuminati. You understand? That's your family. Now, the royal family wants to convince everybody that they're O negative. It's what they continually publish. And yet they're related to, Lord Vlad, Dracula. I mean, come on. The witch or medium of Endor first appears in 1 Samuel 28:7-39. Then Saul said to his servants, seek out for me a woman who is a medium, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, behold, there is a medium at Endor. Now, is this forbidden to us because they don't want us to have the ability to curse them to oblivion? They just want to use that on us, right? So, where in the Bible does it say not to allow a witch to live? We just covered that. What is the Hebrew word for witchcraft? The root word kashab is translated as mutterings. You understand? It's like praying. You know how the pagans do it. repetitive. You understand? The late Merrill F. Unger, biblical scholar and theologian, in his book, Biblical Demonology, he too essentially interpreted Mekhashep as witch, specifying one who practices magic by using occult formulas, incantations, and mystic mutterings. What does a white witch represent in the Bible? It says the white witch is representative of evil. In the Bible, this would be the equivalent to Satan. It doesn't matter what kind of witch you want to call yourself. You're still dealing with demons, people. Don't do it. Testament of Judah. Now I have much grief, my children, because of your lewdness. Oh, the Jews have lewdness and witchcraft and idolatries, which ye work against the kingdom, following men that have familiar spirits. Yet I will take your daughters singing, and harlots for divinations, and demons of error, and ye will be mingled in the pollutions of the Gentiles. Do you understand what he's saying here? You're already mingled, Judah, because you mingled with Canaanites. And if it weren't for Tamar, you wouldn't have no O's, rather RH negatives. Anyway, it goes on. You're welcome to read Judah's testament. But he's telling you right there that ye will be mingled in the pollutions of the Gentiles. That's what the entire Bible is about. Not mixing spirits with souls. Yet the Anunnaki can't do nothing but lie, because they're in the teacher position and could have done this right, but they won't do it right because that's all they can do is lie, because it's what they are. They're lying, you know what. The idea of witchcraft as a threat was brought from England. That's how they got to America. The English colonists imported these ideas of a witch to America with them. I want you to imagine that the white people of Northern Europe and Asia, you know, whatever power they had, they were basically in their cold places and they were not leaving. Something happened now where they're colonizing the entire world. They're going everywhere. I'm talking about white people. And prior to the events in Salem, many people had been indicted for witchcraft in other parts of New England. Are there witches in Native American culture? There are several varieties of those considered to be witches by the Navajo. The most common variety in horror fiction by the Navajo people are the Nadolushi, a type of anti-jinni known in English as skinwalker. The Navajo tradition about the Hillerman wrote most often Navajo witches are also known as Navajo wolves or skinwalkers. In general, it is believed that the witches cause physical infections that stem from spiritual imbalances associated with death. Boy, you should see this show, Evil, that that I watched to get an idea. And actually, quite a bit of it, I learned, quite a bit of what I learned, I did from that show, because I learned specifically about possession. Interesting. What is a ghost witch in Native American culture? A ghost witch is also a Skadegamut, Skud Kumut, features in folklore of Wanaki, Wabanaki tribes, such as the Malasite, I can't say all these words, reminiscent of vampire and European folklore. Remember the Grimm that we studied, that I shared with you? Vampires and werewolves, people. It's the same thing going on in the Native American culture. The ghost witch is an undead creature that rises at night to feast upon the living. And this is the most common theme about witches and or sorcerers and warlocks. They are cannibals. Just know that. What spirits do Native Americans believe in? Most Indians believe in a supernatural force that was present in all things. That's going to be your spirits. Among the Algonquin peoples, this force was known as Manitou. The Iroquois called it Orinda, and the Dakota Sioux, Wakanda. This force, commonly called the Creator, was the source of the world and all of the other spirits therein. Technically, you could call it a creator, but what I'm seeing is more mixing. That's what's illegal. All of the mixing that they do, whether it be allopathic medicine or whether they do just blending people together, okay? All of that mixing is the problem. What is the devil's mark? The devil's mark included a variety of skin lesions, pay attention, described as flat or raised, red, blue, or brown lesions, sometimes with unusual outlines. Hello, I did a study about this years ago called the Mongolian birthmark or the Mongolian spot, which marks were most probably supernumerary nipples. Now, when I looked this up, I looked at the pictures, and most of them looked like flat-chested men, which alarmed me. Till I started thinking, what I think about all the time. Can't get it out of my head. The difference between us and y'all. The word monster or moon star is associated with RH positives, people. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It was believed that the familiars, agents of the devil, usually in animal form, would receive sustenance by being suckled. Supernumerary nipples are the presence of extra nipples. A supernumerary nipple is the aborted beginning of an additional nipple along the mid-clavicular area line of the thorax. And I've written here werewolves and cat vampires. Hello. But let's go back to the Mongolian spots. I'm not going to do a long video here, but I think it's important for you to know this much. Mongolian spots, also known as congenital dermal melanocytosis, or slate gray, nervous or flat, irregular benign birthmarks that appear as blue or gray patches or macules on the skin. They are usually present at birth or within the first few weeks of life and are most commonly found on the buttocks, back, lower back, or shoulders, and the base of the spine. This is the, what a lot of people have attributed to the mark of the beast. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think it's interesting. When you study it, you're going to find that there are some things connected to witchery for sure. Mongolian spots are extremely common in children with dark skin, including those of African, Indian, Polynesian, and Asian descent. So these are the Canes, no question about it, to the east. In fact, they are seen in more than 90% of African Americans and Native American babies, 62% to 86%, and of Asians, 70%, of Hispanic babies, and 9.6% of Caucasian infants. Mongolian spots are congenital birthmarks seen mostly commonly over the lumbosacral area. They are bluish green to black in color and oval to irregular in shape. They are most commonly found in individuals of Africa and Asian ethnic background. Why do witches wear gloves? Pay attention. It says real witches is certain always to be wearing gloves when they meet her because she doesn't have fingernails. Instead of fingernails, she has thin, curvy claws like a cat. She wears gloves to hide them. Does that seem so strange to you? Maybe it is. How did witches originate? Most people think that witches are a Christian invention, but the idea of a witch who flies in the night and draws power from the dark cosmic forces to work her ill will on others predates Christianity probably by many centuries. What is the root of sorcery? Says the Middle English sorcery borrowed from Middle French sorcery, spelled a different way, ultimately derived from Latin sors, meaning fate, from Proto-Indian European sur, to bind, and I've added here, or to mix, because that's what witches do. It's a witch's brew. You don't think that they just put water in there, do you? No, it's mixing. This is what allopathic medicine does. It mixes, a concoction that, due to incantations, will probably do nothing but harm the person, not to mention the, aborted fetuses that are put in them in the form of natural flavor enhancers. You shall not make impure marriages where love and health are not, nor yet corrupt yourselves, or any creature made pure by the holy. Who said that? Who said it? Probably Thoth, but you would know him as Jesus. See, they put out a book of high-level information that's like you can't get anywhere else. That's what they did to me. They gave me the Gospel of the Holy 12 and the Essene Humane Gospel of Christ. That's what I got. And I was faithful to it for a while. But then I realized all of this is just a trick to keep you in the system so they can continue to bilk you for everything you're worth. And in that system, they don't especially treat you well with the food or with the medicines, with all the things that they're supposed to do well. They don't do it. So this is from the Secrets of the Book of Enoch. This is, you're going to just have to, if you want to check it, You're going to have to take a few of the words in order and look in the search. It says, verse 4, the devil is the evil spirit of the lower places. What do they mean, lower places? You know, Arches was sent to the bottom to be fastened to the bottom. So that he could be with his people, the monsters, says, as a fugitive. Now, so we're told that the devil was actually up in heaven. Now, I don't really believe that, but you've got all these people talking about archangels on the 6th and 7th heaven, and that they're saints. Not from anything I've ever seen. And so it says, so as a fugitive, the devil, who is the spirit of the lower places, while he's there, because as a fugitive, he's there, and he makes Satona. So he's going to make a female Satanel. So he's going to take his dirty DNA, and he's going to make it into somebody that he can have sex with and abuse all the time. Probably. Now it says in the Bible, Ti-Amat, but I've written out to the side, or rather Diana, I've read out to the side Ti-Amat, because the Anunnaki give her the distinction of the mother of all. It says, from the heavens, as his name was Satanel, and that means the impious one, the lead adversary. It says Lucifer. But who is Ti-Amat's consort? That's called the Apsu, as in APZU or SU, but you could easily come up with APZOO, Apsu. This is where the animals come in. And so the spirits ultimately want to protect the animals. Now that's the one thing that I can agree with them on. We should be protecting the animals. And yes, all of them, probably all of them. Some of them you don't particularly want to be around because you feel like they are responsible for disease, and I understand that. So, thus he became different from the angels, but his nature did not change his intelligence as far as his understanding of righteous and sinful things. So in other words, free will he has. He doesn't like his situation now, so he's pissed about it. So he's going to throw tantrums and act out and all of them things. But in the end, he's got free will. So that's what this is telling you. See, this is what I said about my grandsons. They got free will. They don't have to cause trouble on the earth. My son and, well, my daughter didn't until later, but we know for a fact that she was a targeted individual. Somehow, some way, through both of my fathers being Freemasons, they thought that they had a right to do whatever they wanted to her, so that they could have her as part of their breeding program. Think about it. Just saying. It says, and he understood his condemnation in the sin which he had sinned before. So he made a woman, right? Lust, so that he could have lots of lust. See, this is what he's having. And therefore conceived thought against Adam in such form he entered and seduced Eve. Now, it doesn't tell you the form that he went in, but we assume it's a serpent form. Or is it? We can find out, maybe. Let's find out. But did not touch Adam. But I cursed ignorance. Now, this is probably Anu talking. But what I had blessed previously, those I did not curse. I cursed not man, nor the earth, nor other creatures, but man's evil fruit and his works. And then in other books, you're going to hear that he cursed the earth instead of Adam and Eve. Most notably, the cave of treasures. So let's look at this thing called marriage. The first definition is legally or formally recognized union of two people. Notice when they use this word legally instead of lawfully, they're talking about statutes. And just for the record, no statute, none of the statutes are lawful. They may be legal, and that's a term that I don't want you to get caught up in. Legal is not lawful. Okay, just remember that. Recognize the union of two people as partners in a personal relationship. Historically, in some jurisdictions, specifically a union between a man and a woman, a happy marriage. Now, again, Satan is always working. So listen to reasoning number 2 that they tell you here is a marriage. A combination or mixture of two or more elements, a marriage of jazz, pop, blues, and gospel. See how they're going to turn it to music? Or could it be, or how about the sun and the moon mixing? How about the soul and the spirit mixing? How about a Doyle and Arches mixing? And finally, how about RH negative and RH positive? Refer back now to the first one. The legally, formally recognized union of two people. And at this time, has to be between a man or a woman. Not so anymore. Not so anymore. In fact, we've got we had a marriage party earlier today of two gals. Not only different races, but also two women who are planning to have a marriage. The person's mother did not even show up. Those seraphim are, now this is from the Cave of Treasures, which is a great book. But you got to remember, most of these books have a lot of lies in them. So, though the seraphim are very affectionate and sympathetic beings, they are not sex emotion creatures. They are much as you will be on the mansion worlds. In other words, they're, like the angels were supposed to be, and they were not. Where they were, androgynous. Where you will neither marry nor be given in marriage, but will be as the angels of heaven. What? Not down here they aren't. For all who shall be accounted worthy to attain the mansion worlds neither marry nor are given in marriage, neither do they die anymore, for they are equal to the angels. Nevertheless, in dealing with sex creatures, It is our custom to speak of those beings or more direct descent from the Father and the Son as the sons of God. Now, pay attention. Let's read that again. Creatures, it is our custom to speak of those beings of more direct descent from the Father and the sons as the sons of God. How is that descending? That's ascending. While referring to the children of spirits as the daughters of God. Are you with me? Now, not everything you're going to read in this book is true, but you have to be able to discern what is and isn't. And let me tell you something, 15 years I've been doing this. There have been times when I woke up confused. Many. Not so much anymore. I'm going to read this to you again. It is our custom to speak of those beings of more direct descent from the Father and the Son as the sons of God. Notice they don't say so. They don't say so. While referring to the children of spirit as the daughters of God. That's the best description I've ever seen. Angels are therefore commonly designated by feminine pronouns on the sex planets. You get it? Let's go to the notes. This is from the book of the Cave of Treasures. It says, God did not make Eve of the earth that she might not be considered something alien to Adam in nature. So what this is saying, you know, she wasn't made to be something alien to him in his nature that he could recognize. Now see, let me give you an example. So me, you know, I grew up in a locker room where I saw all kinds of people walking around buck-ass naked. And so I avoided all that. Yeah, I took my showers at home. That's a great way to separate your RH negatives from your RH positives. It's a great way. It's an easy way. Had a girl beat my daughter up, a big lesbian beat my daughter up because she didn't want to take a shower in the shower. Now, I understood exactly why. That's not our bag. We don't want to see other people walking around naked. Anyway, says, nor from his right side. Let me back up a little bit more. She might not, he did not make her from Adam's foreparts, that she might not uplift herself against him, nor from his hind parts, that she might not be accounted despicable, nor from his right side, that she might not have preeminence over him, nor from his head, that she might not seek authority over him, nor from his feet, that she might not be trodden down and scorned in the eyes of her husband. But he took her from the left side, for the left side is a place that unites and joins both front and back. Further, God did not form Eve from Adam's head, that she might not carry her head proudly, nor from his eye, that she might not be curious, nor from his ear, that she might not be an eavesdropper, nor from his mouth, that she might not be gossiping, nor from his heart, that she might not be quarrelsome, nor from his hand, that she might not touch everything with her hand, nor from his feet, that she might not rove about. You know, this is what the Bible is teaching. It's teaching to be a part of your own kind. Now, it does talk about restoration of the Gentiles. The problem that we've got is that most Gentiles wouldn't know what the game is here. They wouldn't get it because even their own powers that be don't want them to know. So unless you get it from somebody like me, which is why I never, you know, all RH positives are welcome here, okay? So every once in a while I get somebody that say I deleted something or I kicked them off. Yeah, I will temporarily kick you off, but I've never kicked anybody off permanently that I can remember. All right, Black's Law definition, monster definition. The legal meaning, a prodigious birth, a human birth, or an offspring not having the shape of mankind. Understand, human is in this category as well, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit brought forth in marriage. A natural person, a human being, naturally born versus legally legally generated as a judicial person. And it says human being, sea monster, and it's SEE, sea monster. Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, human being from Latin, humanus, a lesser, this is humanus, a lesser inferior man or woman defined legally as an animal or as a monster, as distinct from the ancient pre-Vatican Roman term homo, man. The key rule of law of the 14th century describing a fundamental legal fiction, that is the notion of an inferior man or woman as an animal, as defined by the papal decree, and therefore not subject to the laws of free men. Talking about Freemasons. This is why they can do whatever the hell they want to do. But the laws of property. This is Ephesians 6:12 out of the Geneva Bible, which I like to read. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the worldly governors and the princes of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness which are in ye high places. This is right out of the Geneva. So worldly governors, darkness, princes of darkness of this world. Get it? Genesis 1. And the Lord made two great luminaries, and they were equal in their glory, for one less 602 and 70 parts of an hour. And afterwards the moon recited against the sun a false report, and she was diminished. And the sun was appointed to be the greater light, and to rule the day, and the moon to be the inferior light, to rule the night, and the stars. People, you don't have to tell me that not everybody is clean of parasites. I get that. That's what all of you's problems are. You'll never get past it if you don't clean yourself up. You might have to do that with ivermectin. But the bottom line is that you can't go back to eating meat. Natural law is the ticket. I'm going to do a video on natural law soon. You shall not take away the life of any creature for your pleasure, nor for your profit, nor yet to torment it. You shall not eat the flesh, nor drink the blood of any slaughtered creature, nor yet anything which bringeth disorder to your health or senses. Ye shall cherish and protect the weak and those who are oppressed, and all creatures that suffer wrong. Satan's attack on Adam and Eve. And let us see. This is going to be my last. This is going to be it. Let's look at it. So Satan's attack on Adam and Eve. When Satan saw Adam and Eve were happy and joyful in paradise, that rebel was smitten sorely with jealousy, and he became filled with wrath. We know that this is Marduk and Enlil, but it could be all of them. And he went and he took up his abode in a serpent, and he raised him up, and he made him to fly through the air to the skirts of Mount Eden, which, by the way, is in the navel of the earth. And to this day, that's where Bird went and probably talked to Enlil there. They're not going to let us go there, but they're there. Whereupon was paradise. Now, why did Satan enter the body of the serpent and hide himself therein? Because he knew that his appearance was foul, and that if Eve saw his form, she would betake herself to flight straightway before him. Now, the man who wished to teach the Greek language to a bird, now pay attention. Now, the bird that can learn the speech of men is called basically a parrot, i.e. parrot. First bringeth a large mirror and places it betweeneth himself and the bird. He then bringeth to talk to the bird, beginneth to talk to the bird. And immediately the parrot heareth the voice of the man it turned around, and when it seeth its own form reflected in the mirror, it become pleased straightway, because it imagineth that a fellow parrot is talking to it. In other words, not a man, but another parrot is talking to it. Then it inclineth its ear with pleasure and listeneth to the words of the man who is talking to it, and it becometh eager to learn and to speak Greek in the manner, i.e. with the object of making Eve believe that it was the serpent that spoke to her. In other words, they're trying to say that Eve was a serpent in the mirror. That's what they're trying to say. But last time I checked, other than the Jungle Book, there was no talking serpent. Parrots, yes. Serpents, no. Did Satan enter in and dwell in the serpent? And he watched for the opportunity, and when he saw Eve by herself, he called her name. And when he turned round towards him, she turned round towards him, her astray with his lying words, because of the nature of a woman being soft and or yielding. And when Eve heard from him concerning the tree, straightway she ran quickly to it, and she plucked the fruit of obedience from the tree transgression of the command, and she ate. Then immediately she found herself stripped naked, and she saw the hatefulness of her shame. And she ran away naked and hid herself in another tree and covered her nakedness with leaves thereof. And she cried out to Adam, and he came to her, and she handed him some of the fruit that she had eaten, and he also did eat thereof. And when they did, he also became naked, and they made girdles. Okay, I'm going to skip the rest of this and go down to the notes. The fathers of the Ethiopian church emphasized the difficulty which Satan found in entering paradise. He knew that he could not carry out his plan for ruining Adam if he entered paradise in his own form. And he decided that he must assume the form of some bird or animal or reptile if he was to succeed. Then he applied to the elephant and the lion and the leopard and the hyena and the wild boar. And the first four refused point blank to do what Satan wished. Now, does that sound like a lion or a leopard or a hyena? They're always going to take care of their people. See? More lies. The wild boar attempted to gore him with the tusk. Satan entered paradise and stood before Eve. The serpent became the spokesman for him, and he hearkened and he ate of the fruit. Now, it says, God spake to Adam and heartened him, said unto him, Be not sorrowful, O Adam, for I will restore unto thee thy inheritance. Behold, see how greatly I have loved thee, for though I have cursed the earth for thy sake. You see, what happened to you? Well, I didn't curse the earth. See what I mean? That we were reading in the secrets of the book of Enoch. Yet I have withdrawn thee from the operation of the curse. See, it's just a bunch of stories that you really do not know what is true and what is not. So it says, notice, when Adam left paradise, they no longer had fruit, wine, and or flesh to live upon, and they subsisted on cooked grains and vegetables of the earth, of which they ate sparingly. Moreover, four-footed beasts and foul reptiles rebelled against them, and some of them became enemies and adversaries to them. Interesting. It says, look at what it says. It said, and Adam and Eve left paradise. They no longer had fruit, wine, bread, and flesh. That's the forbidden fruit that they ate, people. The flesh. And just so you know, once you start eating it, it makes you want to do this. Stop eating it and watch what happens. Not interested. Anyway, so I'm going to go all the way down here to Genesis 1:28. He said, and he blessed them, and the Lord said unto them, Increase and multiply, and fill the earth with sons and daughters, and prevail over it in its possessions, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the heavens, and over all the creeping animals that creepeth upon the earth. So apparently it's okay to replenish the earth because, it became void. So we need some more people to do our bidding that we can make slaves out of. It says, Behold, I have given you every herb whose seed seedeth upon the face of all of the earth, every unfruitful tree for the need of building and or burning, and a tree in which the fruit seeding after its kind to you will be food. So there you go. And by the way, every beast of the earth, every fowl of the heavens, every reptile upon the earth, I have given all green herbs. And it was so. Now, Adam and Eve were virgins, and Adam wished to know. This is, again, that was the Targum of Palestine. This is now back to the Cave of Treasures. It says, and Adam wished to know Eve, his wife. And Adam took from the skirts of the mountains of paradise gold and myrrh and frankincense, and he placed it in the cave. And he blessed the cave, and he consecrated it that it might be the house of prayer for himself and his sons. And he called the cave, basically the Cave of Treasures. Do you understand? That's the book I'm reading from. So Genesis 3, this is the Targum of Palestine, says the woman beheld Samael, the angel of death. So it was not a serpent that looked like Eve. Okay? It was an angel of death, afraid, yet she knew that it was a tree good to eat, and that it would be medicine for the enlightenment of the eyes. Debatable. Satan's ill light is naughty. and a desirable tree by which to understand. And she took of its fruit, and she did eat. She did give to her husband, and he did eat. And the eyes of both of them were enlightened, and that they knew that they were naked, and to have vested of their purple robe in which they had been created. Now, this did not happen, boom, that quick. They want you to think it did, but it didn't. Doesn't happen that quick. And they saw the sight of their shame, and they sowed themselves figs. So now, instead of it being, the fig bark, you understand? It's fig leaves. And then we have Nimrod with Adam's cinctures that, supposedly Enlil, Enki, whoever made for him, that were animal skins. And Nimrod, actually not Nimrod, but Ham stole them. Ham or Canaan, I can't remember which one right now. And it said Genesis 4, and Adam knew Havah, his wife, who had desired the angel. And she conceived, and she bare Cain, and she said, I have acquired a man from the angel of the Lord. How much more do you need than that right there? And she added to bear her husband, Adam his twin, even Abel. And Abel was a shepherd of the flock, and Cain was a working man of the earth. Why is Cain a working man of the earth? Because they wanted to keep him away from needing to have that. Why is Abel a shepherd of the flock? Well, milk and wool and cheese is what they were getting. But, the eating of meat is something that they had to give up. Okay, that is going to be all. I've got way more, but that is all I'm going to be able to do for right now. And, I hope that you will try to understand why I say the things that I say. But by all means, ask about it, because I don't have no problems telling you why. It is what it is. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Have a nice day.